Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late night talk program featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Wednesday night edition of the program. We are live and national, and it's my pleasure to be here. Truly a blessing to be on this microphone with you. If you want to join us, feel free to give me a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4Valdez. And the federal government shutdown is over. And like clockwork, the Democrats couldn't wait to start, their latest line of attack. They brought back the Epstein files. We'll get into that a little bit later. More fake, phony fraud drama regarding the Epstein files. I think it's affecting the folks in the media establishment more than actual Americans. But the big news right now, just a little while ago, I don't know, 15, 20, half hour ago, the House voting and reopening the government. The bill is on its way to President Trump's desk, and he is scheduled to sign it in about 30 minutes. And I think we're going to go to that live as soon as it's available, as soon as the mic feed is available to us to bring it to you live at 9:40, 9:45 or so. So keep it locked right here for all of that breaking news. But I want to talk to you a little bit about what happened in the House, because the Democrats vowed yesterday, I don't know if you remember, right? Hakeem Jeffries saying, we will do everything we can to keep the government closed, right? That was Hakeem Jeffries yesterday saying that this is not fair, this is not right, crying about Obamacare, all sorts of things. And voila, the Republicans saved the day, opening the government so people can fly again, so that people can get their SNAP benefits, so that people can do all the things that they've been doing with they haven't been doing because the government's been shut down. And we have a clip of the vote. Listen to this.
In this vote, the yeas are 222, the nays are 209. The bill is passed. Motion is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
All right. So there you have it. Getting the necessary votes to pass the bill to reopen the government. Again, the bill has passed in the Senate. It has passed in the House. It's on its way to the White House to be signed by President Trump tonight, right? If this were Joe Biden, Joe El Baboso Biden, he would say something like, "Oh, well, we're gonna sign it tomorrow." My wife Jill, we're gonna sign it first thing in the morning. Some ice cream. No, none of that, right? President Trump said, "You know what? Let me fix my hair. Give me some hairspray. We're going in." 9:45, we're going to make it a big deal. Why? Because it is a big deal. Because the Democrats need to own this shutdown. They need to make sure every last American understands that they did this. They can cry about Obamacare all they want. I don't think there's going to be too many people that are going to say, hey, you know what? You're right. Thanks for standing up for me and making sure that people almost went without food. Thanks for standing up for me and making sure that we couldn't, take a flight that didn't spend an extra hour in the air. Thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Yeah, I think the Democrats did some damage to their brand today. That's my thought. I think they were banking on trying to do this, the opposite, right? They were trying to say, no, it's Trump. This is Trump shutdown. Honestly, the media went with it. But at the end of the day, when you have the result of a party line vote for Republicans opening the government, how do you hide from those facts? Not even CNN and MSNBC is going to be able to spin this in their favor. Anyway, Speaker Johnson speaking moments after the shutdown and giving some remarks from the rotunda. We'll bring you some of that later. But I also have a clip of him that I want to play for you because he's right. This is a situation that the Democrats put us in with Obamacare from the beginning, right? Because this is what they keep crying about. And it was the Democrats that did that. And this is going back more than 10 years. This is something that Republicans fought against, not because people shouldn't have health care. It's because the government shouldn't be involved in your health insurance. And they interjected the government into health insurance And this is the result. Now this is their permanent thing to hold on to try and manipulate people, to try and stay intertwined with your lives instead of letting you live your own life. So let's go to the clip of Speaker Johnson.
This outcome was totally foreseeable. I said that this would be the outcome when all this began back in mid-September. They did it anyway. Democrats admitted that they used the people as leverage, and they got nothing for their selfish political stunt here. They didn't achieve anything with this at all. And anyone who studied history would know that shutdowns never yield any positive result. It just hurts people. I said on the House floor a little while ago that we did all this in good faith. From the very beginning, I was insistent about this. Our leadership team was. The Republicans did the right thing. We had a nonpartisan continuing resolution. We didn't have any Republican priorities on it at all. We just said, in good faith, let's keep the lights on. Let's keep this going for another 7 weeks so that the Congress can do its work, so they can get back to the regular appropriations process, the way that it is supposed to be done for the people, so that we're good stewards with their money. That hasn't been done here in a long time. And we said we want to get back to that. Now, I'm pleased that tonight on the CR we had 3 appropriations bills that we'll send over to the President's desk in just a short amount of time tonight to get signed into law. That's an innovation too. As you all know, it's been years since Congress actually did separate appropriations bills. I'm proud of that achievement, but I'm really sad that it took us so long to get here. It was so much pain that had to be endured to get to this point. Voters are going to remember which political party played games with their lives. They're going to remember that they did this for their own selfish purposes so that they could look tough to the radical elements of their base, and real people suffered because of that game. So now that we've got the lights back on, we've got the government reopened, the president will sign that triumphantly tonight.
And that, again, the breaking news from Speaker Mike Johnson. The longest government shutdown in the history of the United States caused by the Democrats is finally over because the Republicans voted to reopen the government from the House. We do have to give credit to the 8 Democrats that allowed this to pass in the Senate. Senator John Fetterman among them, who I think was really the de facto Democrat whip there, whipping the votes of his colleagues. And finally, enough people said enough is enough. We're not doing this anymore. It's amazing that it got this far. It's amazing to me that it got this bad. But, of course, that's where we are. So, again, that's over. And it'll be a few days before everything gets back to normal. But I understand payments will be going out potentially as early as tonight to make sure that these government workers are going to get their back pay and their paychecks. So, again, glad it's over. You know, I made a lot of fun of this stuff, and I was somewhat flip during these days because I don't have a lot of dealings with the federal government. And honestly, I want to see the government shrink, and I think this is a great opportunity. Again, most Americans, I think most people that listen to this program can probably say, yeah, I know about the shutdown because I heard about it, but many people didn't directly experience something catastrophic. And I don't mean to minimize it for other people. What I'm saying is I think we have a lot of area in our government that we can examine, that we can re-examine with the DOJ committee and say, hey, look, you know what, we went 7 weeks, 40 days, 42 days, whatever it was, without these people. And perhaps some of these positions are duplicative. Maybe we don't need all of this staffing in some of these positions. Maybe I'm wrong. You know, I'm not saying to cut back on air traffic controllers. I know we need a lot of those, especially in Newark Airport, Newark, New Jersey. Anyway, so that's that. That's tonight's breaking news. Big news earlier this week was pardons that went out. Of course, Rudy Giuliani and other Trump attorneys like Christina Bobb were pardoned by President Trump. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit as well. Christina Bobb is scheduled to join us momentarily. And, of course, we're going to be checking in with a few members of Congress regarding the shutdown. So keep it locked right here. Lots of breaking news. President Trump coming up in about 28, 30 minutes. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
President Donald Trump has pardoned a list of political allies for their support or involvement in alleged plans to overturn the 2020 election. And it is quite a lengthy list. The Department of Justice says in total, 77 people received what they are referring to as full, complete, and unconditional pardons. Department of Justice pardon attorney Ed Martin posted a signed proclamation, which read in part, "This proclamation ends a grave national injustice perpetrated upon the American people following the 2020 presidential election and continues the process of national reconciliation." The individuals listed include high-profile figures like Trump lawyers Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, and the president's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows. This group of presidential pardons is seen by many as symbolic since it only applies to federal criminal cases, and no person on the list has been charged with a federal crime. Many, though, have faced or are facing charges in states that investigated efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. The pardon also explicitly states that it does not apply to Trump. This move marks Trump's latest step to absolve or protect allies who tried to overturn the 2020 election results.
So that is a report from Julia Benbrook, CBS News. And this is a quick editorial note for Barry Weiss over at CBS. You guys got to do a little better than this, right? This is supposed to be a straight news story. And it sounds like something nefarious going on in the White House, political allies, absolving them, overturning the election. When in truth, I think what happened was President Trump was using due diligence, right? He was legally allowed to say, I'm getting a lawyer. I'm going to look at this. I want them to look into this. I don't like these results, so let's check them out. And I think this is part of the problem that we see over and over in the media when they say latest attempt to absolve political allies. And this is why people are not interested in traditional media, legacy media. So, Ms. Barry Weiss, you have your work cut out for you over at CBS News. But since we're on the topic of 77 pardons from the federal government, I want to speak with one of President Trump's attorneys, Christina Bobb. She's been with us before, but I want to get her reaction to this and a couple other things. Christina Bobb, welcome back.
Hey, Rich. Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. Now, amigos, you remember Christina Bobb is the author of the book Defiant, Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare. And, you know, Christina Bobb, when you hear this report, and, you know, pardon my critique of it. I didn't mean to take some of your time, but I just couldn't help myself. It seems like there is a disdain from those in the media who are critics of President Trump that they can't help themselves but take shots at him. But in reality, it seems like rather than reporting the news here, they were really trying to somehow minimize this and cheapen it. Your thoughts?
No, I think you're exactly right. And I welcome your critique. I think you're spot on. You know, she says, all of these people tried to overturn the election. They're alleged to have overturned the election. There have been 0 convictions. We're on year 5. Not a single person has been convicted of trying to overturn the election or undermining the United States government. There have been 1 or 2 people who pled guilty to a minor misdemeanor having nothing to do with really with the election in an effort to avoid the prosecutions. But of the, approximately 77 people, there has not been 1 single conviction related to forgery or conspiracy to commit forgery, which is what we're all charged with, or RICO, like what was brought in Georgia. Not a single one in 5 years. And yet they keep putting this narrative out there as if, maybe if they say it enough times, it will become true. But if you're a prosecutor and you don't have at least a 90% conviction rate, you're going to get fired because you're the one that picks the case. You're the one that decides which case to bring. If you can't win the case, don't bring it in the first place. They have a 0% conviction rate for any of the crimes that they accused us of initially. So,
and you're talking about like Arizona and Georgia and all of that.
Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
They charged the 77 of us with fake crimes and nobody was ever convicted. 5 years later, they're still accusing us of being criminals. They're still trying to paint us as some type of, criminal conspiracy that they have never been able to prove. And they have had all the time in the world to do it. They've had federal courts. They weren't able to do it in federal court. They've had 5 different state courts. They haven't been able to do it in state court. I mean, at what point do we finally say, okay, you owe us all a retraction, and you have to say, we've never been convicted. Not only have we not been convicted, we've all been, for the most part, exonerated. There's 2 cases still, if you include Arizona, there's 3 cases still pending. Arizona's about to close, but Nevada and Wisconsin are still open, but the defendants in those cases, they're going to win those cases. And then we will have had 5 years of media just defaming people who aren't guilty of crimes. I mean, it's disgusting what they're doing.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you. I think it's bizarre, but I get it. Because in my regular life, the other day I don't know where I was. I was doing something. I was having pizza, I think, with a friend of mine. And we got into talking about the 2020 election. Not necessarily, this angle, but the previous angle, which was why you guys were in court. And, he was like, can we now, it's been a few years. Can we just admit that this never happened, that they never stole the election and you just lost fair and square? And they're baiting you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going the other way. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm saying they're baiting you that to try and say, yep, you're right, never happened, the whole thing's a fabrication, Giuliani's nuts, Christina Bobb is nuts, they're all a bunch of whack jobs. And to me, this is a very, very unfair way of looking at things, because I'm willing to have a conversation, yet it seems like they're unwilling to consider all of the facts.
Of course they are. And they're the ones that brought these cases, right? They're the ones claiming that we tried to overturn the election. We never did that, and they've never been able to prove it.
Well, let me ask you a question. Why would that be wrong? Why, if I ran for office and I didn't win, I can call my lawyer and say, hey, I think there was some chicanery over here. Yeah. I want you guys to look into it. And if I, in fact, did win, then I want this overturned. I want the right results. What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with it is that's actually what happened, and they were very nervous about it because there were problems with the election, and they didn't want us to find them. So that's why they were upset about it. But yeah, I think you're right, and they're the ones that have been hurling the accusations that they haven't been able to prove.
Yeah, it really is wild stuff. Folks, we're on with Christina Bobb. She is the author of a great book. You got to get a copy for yourself, one to give away. The holidays are coming up. The book is called Defiant: Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare. And we're talking about the pardons that President Trump made for 77 people just several days ago, 2 days ago. And I wanted to get her reaction to that. And I also want to get your reaction to what the media report that I played before stated, which was that while there are several state cases that are ongoing with 0 convictions, as you've stated, for 5 years, and putting a lot of prosecutors in a bad position, that this was symbolic in nature because there were no federal crimes. So I want to get your thoughts on that as well when we come back. Folks, we're coming right back with Christina Bobb. She was President Trump's attorney. She was attorney for MAGA, Inc., and now she's over at Judicial Watch, and she's got this amazing book. And we're going to talk about all of that and more when we come back with Christina Bobb. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Look at Rich Valdez. He's now a radio host, and he's a great radio host.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
In this vote, the yeas are 222, the nays are 209. The bill is passed. Motion is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
That is, again, the vote that has reopened the government, a nearly party line vote for Republicans in the House of Representatives, reopening the government. The bill now goes to the president's desk, and President Trump is scheduled to sign it in about 13 minutes from now. We'll be going to the White House live as that happens. But before we do, I want to make sure we put a pin in our conversation with President Trump's former attorney, Christina Bobb. Christina Bobb is the author of the book Defiant. She's with us now, and she's one of the 77 individuals that received a pardon from the president. And the interesting thing here is that the media is making mention of there being no federal crimes. And I think that's to your benefit, right? You're the lawyer, not me. But I would say there's a presumption that there might have been guilt, and that's why you're being pardoned. So if you're getting pardoned and there is no crime, then it proves you're innocent. Does my logic make sense?
Yeah, well, I like your logic. Yeah, it works for me. So, the pardon is very nice. I think it's a symbolic show of support for those of us that are still fighting this horrific lawfare, all coming out of the Arctic frost. It all stems from there. But my indictment was thrown out 5 months ago. The case is still open, but it's real close to being dismissed. So I don't think the pardon's really going to come into play or have much impact at all in my case. But there may be circumstances for other folks where they try to use it to make certain arguments or whatnot. But I do think it was a show of support from the president to say, look, these people don't deserve to be going through what they're going through.
Yeah, I agree with that. And good for President Trump for really making good. And shame on the media, right? I think people deserve to hear. It's okay if you hear both sides of the story, but I think it's not okay when you only get one side of the story and it's kind of presumed as fact, right? I think people listen to me and they go, "Oh, this guy's spouting his opinion." That's true. I am, and I'm biased, and that's okay. But when you hear someone from NBC News or CBS News, like we heard before, like Julia Benbrook from CBS News, I'm pretty sure she's never really done any opinion commentary, that she's a straight news person. And it's disconcerting. I know we're kind of used to it, but it's very disconcerting that those in the media continue to play games with this stuff.
Yeah, I say they pretend, but I think they believe it themselves. I think they genuinely believe that they're unbiased and that everyone should just agree with them because they're neutral. I truly think they think that, which is bizarre. Yeah. But it really is creating a very calloused environment because they're wanting those of us who never did anything wrong. We never committed any crimes. We never hurt anybody. We never damaged anything. We were simply exercising our political choice. And they want to throw us in prison for that. They want to defame us. They want to destroy our lives. They want to ruin our reputations. They want to make it hard for us to work, to earn a living. We now have criminal records. It's really horrific. And the fact that they're pushing that is making our political arena really unforgiving, like very, very toxic and cutthroat. And everyone's, politics is always cutthroat. But they amplified the stakes when they said, okay, you lose, you go to jail. I mean, that's a crazy position to take. And the media is making it sound like it's appropriate.
Right. It's normal and acceptable.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be. It absolutely should not be. But I mean, that's the direction they're pushing us.
Yeah. And, and you're right with, I think, a lot of what you said. And there is a political class in the media that exists, and I don't know that you and I can get rid of those people, nor should we. They exist, and we kind of deal with them. But even like today, right, and this is kind of off the cuff here, but this announcement and these headlines about President Trump being mentioned in emails from Epstein, and they leave out that he spent an hour with a victim, but that the victim is Virginia Giuffre, who was on the record saying he was a complete gentleman, he's never done a thing that was wrong. I mean, why on earth would you try to create a headline like that other than to mislead?
Yeah, the way it was reported, those emails that were put out was incredibly misleading. To your point, they redacted Virginia's name and just put victim over top when we already knew those emails existed. We already knew those conversations existed, but they did it to, give television news a salacious picture of the email to use in their reporting that says Donald Trump and victim in the same line. And she's already testified under oath that he had nothing to do with anything, and he was always polite to her. So if you read the emails in that light, where the quote unquote victim that they're allegedly protecting in this email said, no, he didn't do anything wrong. He was very polite to me. When you read those emails with that in mind, Epstein is saying, oh, that dog hasn't barked, or the dog that hasn't barked yet is Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. The other way to read that is the person who knows what happened but hasn't said anything about it yet. Like, Donald Trump has incriminating information on Jeffrey Epstein. That's the other way to read the email. But we don't know exactly what it means because, it's one or two emails in something that was probably a lengthy chain. But of course, they want to try to make it look like Donald Trump was doing something bad when he wasn't.
Right. And again, it's just wild. And again, this is, not to be crass, but this is information coming from a woman who is sadly dead and a man who's not so sadly dead. And yet this gift keeps on giving. It just amazes me. And the only calculation I can come up with is Democrats do this because they have no other thing to talk about because they just got beat on the shutdown. And now they have to go back to slinging mud, but their version of slinging mud, if they're not trying to put you and El Trompito in jail, they're talking about something that can try to hurt them. Meanwhile, this really, I don't think it hurts them because it's kind of already proven that it didn't happen.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think the Epstein story it's a hot potato that has been passed from administration to administration to, I mean, it's been around 20 something years. And I think the public is just finally sick of it now, and it's going to have to come to light. And I know neither side, the Trump administration, the Biden administration, nobody wanted to make this public. I'm guessing there's donors involved. I mean, I don't know. I don't have the answers on this one, but I have a feeling that this is something that's going to linger until it's exposed, because Americans want to know. I mean, I want to know. I want to see more information on it.
Yeah, inquiring minds want to know. Yeah, I'll
exactly.
Tell you, I've been beat up with this stuff. If I never heard of Epstein again, I'd be a happy camper. Christina Bobb, thank you very much for giving us the scoop on the pardons. I appreciate hearing from you. Again, her book, Defiant, Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare. Christina Bobb, tell everybody where they can follow you.
Yep, I'm on X and Instagram at Christina_Bobb, B-O-B-B, or you can go to my website at ChristinaBobb.com. Thank you so much for having me, Rich.
My pleasure. God bless. And amigos, we come back. Your thoughts, your calls, reactions, and El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th and 47th President of these United States, signing the bill to reopen the government. That'll be live. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Thanks for what you do. You have so many people. You ask the questions that if the viewer had a microphone, they would ask that question, and you seem to always ask it right at the right time. So God bless you, my friend.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, we are back. We are live and national. The phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. President Trump scheduled to sign the bill from, I believe it's from the Oval Office, in a minute or so. It's scheduled, but I'm not sure if that's on track. But we will bring it to you, and the second that it happens, I want to hit the phones. I want to get your opinions on a few things that are going on. I want to start off with our buddy Paul. He's in Boise, Idaho, streaming the show this evening on richvaldez.com. Paul, go right ahead.
Thank you for taking my call, Rich.
Yes, sir.
I just think it's a momentous occasion that he's going to sign that and the doors are going to swing open. But for 40 days, we had to put up with some BS by some people that didn't know what they were doing. They have no direction. They have no rudder. They have no sails. They don't know where they're going or what they're doing. And it's bothersome to know where you have to go and how you're going to get there. And you're watching this other ship floundering in the waters next to you. And you can't help them because they don't want your help. They hate
Yeah,
you,
know,
just because they're you.
I think, Paul, I agree with you that they are rudderless, that they are lacking a moral compass. I was just talking about how they lie with impunity. I mean, they just literally will lie straight in your face and pretend you don't know what's going on, even if you know what's going on. Like, for example, here, the votes don't lie, right? There were 50 some odd Democrats and 50 some odd Republicans and 8 Democrats to get to that 60 votes. That's a fact. You can't change that, right? And then today, you have nearly a party line vote to get the yeas that were necessary to open it up. Republicans. So how anyone can say that this was the Democrat shutdown when the minute the Republicans had an opening, they took it. The minute they had 8 people to come on board because they needed them. And it blows me away how they can lie like this and people buy it. And it's because people aren't interested. But I'll disagree on a technicality with you that they know exactly what they're doing. It's not that they don't know what they're doing. They don't care. They wanted to bring about this chaos. This is how it works, right? If they can create chaos, they thrive. And when I say they, I mean the Marxists within the Democrat Party, which is many. And when they can get people angry, if they can get you angry at anything, whatever it is that makes people angry, that is the hook, right? If you are part of the LGBTQ community, they want you to think that the Republicans hate your guts and they blah, 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 and they get you mad. If you're black, they come and they say, oh, the Republicans are promoting more systemic racism. They want to keep you. What did Joe Biden say? He said, they want to put y'all back in chains, right? That's what Joe Biden said. That's a quote from Joe Biden. So when they use this type of language to get people angry, they use the politics of emotion. This is the result we get. But I don't think for a second that they're lost. I don't think they don't know what they're doing. I think they know exactly what they're doing. And they're so manipulative and so evil in many ways that it's shameful. And I think it went from being a handful of people that were fringe in the political party system that were like that to now it being nearly an entire party. And then you have another party that's like, but why are you guys like that? You know, the Republicans, the Mike Johnsons of the world, he's terrific. I think he's fantastic. But he's pretty much a straight shooter. And he's not sitting there lying. And, you know, I look at his performance over the last few weeks and I think, man, he had to get out there every day and keep, no, I'm not lying. They're lying, right? And constantly play defense because the Democrats have the media on their side, Paul.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, 100% there.
Yeah, it really is such a tough situation. Anyway, Paul, thank you for the call. Good to hear your voice. Hope you're doing well. You sound like you're in good spirits. Godspeed to you, my man. I appreciate you. And let me see. All right, we'll do another call right here in case we have to go to El Trompito in the next few minutes. Let's go to Eduardo, Tampa, Florida, streaming us from his WLS stomping grounds. Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, good evening, Rich. Let me tell you a couple of these stories before I tell you about a psych war that President Trump is winning against the Democrats.
Yeah.
Tammy Duckworth's chief of staff pretended to be an attorney for an illegal. Gavin Newsom had a former chief of staff who went down for a wire fraud. You know, President Trump is winning the psych war against the Democrats, who the only thing they care about is Epstein, and even Mr. Maduro, who thinks he's about to be blown up over there in this country.
Yeah.
So President Trump is cleverly winning that psych war.
Yeah, all good points. And you're right. And this is, you know what, again, one of the reasons I like Trump. He figures out the game he's in. He figures out what kind of fight he's fighting. And then he learns how to fight in that style of fighting. And clearly the Democrats are doing this same psychological warfare on people, like we just talked about with Paul, who was on before you. That they're sitting there lying to people, getting them angry. They're taking your snap. The Republicans are this, they're that, they're all these bad things. In reality, the facts remain the facts. It's the Democrats that cause this problem, and they want to come in like they have the solution to the problem. And it's psychological warfare, in my opinion, 101. But Trump figures it out, and he wins. So you're right. I think it's a brilliant point. Thank you, brother. Anything else you wanted to add?
No. That's it. Okay, thank you very much for your time.
You bet. Thank you. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Eduardo in Tampa, Florida. Love Florida. Tampa's not a bad area, by the way. I'm thinking of Clearwater. If not Miami, Clearwater. I hear Clearwater Beach over there is beautiful. Our buddy Ivan used to be a caller on the Levin Show a lot, and he's called this show a few times as well. And he moved, Ivan, from Maryland. He moved all the way to Clearwater Beach, and man, he's living it up over there. So I don't know, maybe that's where we go. Maybe we all need to make a little relocation, or at least a little trip, right, to enjoy the beauty of Florida. Anyway, I'm going to take my pause right here so we can come back and get to the El Trompito and the signing of the bill to reopen the government. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
End of the government shutdown, the House is preparing to reconvene this afternoon and vote to finally end the 43-day-long stalemate.
The House is expected to vote on a Senate-passed spending deal that would fund the government through the end of January. Unlike the Senate, the House only needs a simple majority for it to pass, and the margin is thin. Republicans can only afford to lose 2 votes, as all House Democrats plan to vote no. They're still frustrated the bill doesn't address health care costs and extend Affordable Care Act tax credits.
Healthcare costs are still poised to double or even triple for some folks practically overnight.
Yesterday, the House Rules Committee rejected an amendment that would have extended those subsidies for 3 years. The package is still expected to pass today and head to President Trump's desk for his signature.
Today's vote comes as the Supreme Court extended a freeze on a federal judge's ruling that required the Trump administration to fully fund SNAP benefits through this month. That means that for now, the USDA only has to pay about half of the November benefits. The block is in place until tomorrow night. If the shutdown ends, SNAP will be fully funded from December through next September. But the legal battle over November's benefits will likely continue. Some states, including Washington, have been using state funds to the tune of more than $100 million to continue sending full benefits for the month, expecting to later be reimbursed by the federal government.
That is a report that is a little outdated. That was King 5 News out of Seattle. And, of course, we're live, so we know right now that vote already happened. It's already on its way to President Trump's desk. What are we seeing on that live feed, guys? Still nothing. So El Trompito maybe fixing his hair, getting things ready, getting the pens ready, getting the people in the room. If it happens while we're on break, then te lo perdiste. You missed it. But if not, I will definitely bring it to you even in the next hour. But the big deal here is this ACA stuff. I remember, even before I got into radio, Mark Levin on the radio talking about how this was a power grab by the Democrats. And let me tell you, he couldn't have been more right. And this thing put us where we are today. That was what Speaker Johnson said earlier, that the Democrats put us here. He's 100% right. And now because the power grab that they pulled off way back when, right? Remember, you got to pass the bill so that you could see what's in it. Remember good old Pelosi? Well, now they're upset because they're losing this power, and people are hip to the scam. The whole thing is crazy. Anyway, we're going to continue our conversation in the next hour with a little bit of conversation on what's going on. We have a couple of members of Congress that are scheduled to join us. Hopefully they're not in the Oval Office with President Trump, then we might miss them. But we're going to bring you everything that's going on in the Washington Congress, White House, all that coming up with me. Don't go anywhere. Rich Valdez. Live
from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to what is tonight? Wednesday night already. Woo, time flies when you're having fun. Give me a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4Valdez. I believe we are moments away from President Trump, El Trompito, signing the bill that has reopened the government, making it official. Issuing back pay, getting the people that are furloughed back in the office, and bringing a sense of normalcy back so that the air traffic controllers can get back to work, getting paid. Other government workers can stop delivering DoorDash and Uber Eats and doing what they were doing to stay afloat. They can get back to the job that we pay them to do. So moments away from that, I will bring that to you as it's happening. And, of course, I want to share a story with you. Earlier this morning, Secretary Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security, announcing something called Operation Dirtbag. Well, not necessarily that, right? I think it's called Operation Criminal Return, but she nicknamed it Operation Dirtbag. Listen to this.
Amazing. This operation was called Operation Criminal Return. I call it Operation Dirtbag because these individuals were sex offenders, but not just sex offenders. They targeted children. So sexual assault, battery, attempted homicide. These 150 individuals will be gone off of our streets. Our kids will be safer. And this partnership with Governor DeSantis in Florida is a model that we want to replicate across the country. These individuals should have never been in our country to begin with. The fact that they were sexual deviants and perverts, and now we've gotten them off of our streets, it's remarkable, and we need to do more of it.
That, again, Secretary Noem talking about more than 150 illegal immigrants, sexual predators that have been arrested in Florida as part of a massive sweep that they called Operation Dirtbag, if you will. And these sex offenders were amongst more than 230 illegal aliens that were rounded up in the Sunshine State after this operation endured. And they also got people for different crimes, including murder and drug offenses. Now, some of the others who were arrested had prior convictions for child molestation and sexual assault, and that's all according to the DHS information that was released. So kudos to Secretary Noem and the Department of Homeland Security. I'm looking at a quote here. This is from an appearance she made on the Fox News channel earlier today. This operation was largely a success, targeting individuals that were sex offenders, but not just sex offenders, but they targeted children as well. So I'm glad that we got these people off of our streets and our kids will be safer. Well, kudos to you, Secretary Noem. I think that's fantastic. This is the type of stuff, I think many of us want to wake up to, not because they were illegal aliens per se. Anytime you arrest a bunch of child predators, I'm a happy camper, because for years, the media pulled a fast one on us, right? And we're going to talk about the media in a little bit, really going to dig in on it. But for years, they pulled a fast one. And by pulling a fast one, what I mean by that is every year they would play these movies about back to school, and the guy from America's Most Wanted, his son, there was a movie about him, right, about Adam. And he was, kidnapped, and I would eat cereal, and we would look at the box, the milk carton, and while I was reading the back of the cereal box. And there was always a picture of a missing child. And it was like a thing, like some unfortunate kids just went missing. But when I was a kid, that's what I believed. And as I got older, I believed that they were runaways, that they just decided to run away and they never came back. And maybe they got caught up in drugs after they were on the road hitchhiking. But in reality, it was none of the above. I mean, maybe some portion of them was. But in reality, these are girls, boys, children that were being stolen for the sake of sex work, because there was this labyrinth of sexual predators in our country that thrive on abusing children. And it's a huge thing, and it's still a huge thing. And they wouldn't smuggle them from other countries if we didn't have an appetite or a demand for this in the United States. But we do. Some people try to be slick and they go overseas. They go to Thailand and other places where they get away with that. And, you know, the United States law enforcement has been trying to effectively curtail that by saying, hey, look, if we catch you going somewhere else to commit these crimes, that's a federal crime, and we'll get you anyway. But, man, it's now well documented, right? In recent years, especially, at least for me, in the last several years, I've interviewed more people that have direct experience of what's going on with child trafficking in this country than we've seen ever, right? At least than I've seen ever. So when you hear a story like this of Secretary Noem getting 150 child predators off the street out of 230, and all of them being illegal immigrants in this country, man, I can't help but tip my hat to the Secretary and the men and women at the Department of Homeland Security, because this is the type of stuff, you know, I'm happy to pay taxes for, right? And you know me, I don't want to pay any taxes. So good for them. Now, this is, again, part of a broader effort for immigration and customs enforcement, and they're going to continue their operations in Chicago, Illinois, even though J.B. Pritzker called President Trump demented on Tuesday for targeting the Windy City in the first place. Secretary Noem says, you know what? Forget about it. We're going to stay in Chicago. We're going to go to Florida. We're going to go anywhere else that we can help, and you're going to see a surge of DHS officers because the numbers speak for themselves. Listen to this. The Chicago operation started in September, and it's led to a huge drop in crime, 41% decline in robberies, and a 35% drop in shootings. I can't get mad at that. I don't think anybody can get mad at that. Secretary Noem also ripped Governor Pritzker earlier today, saying that his personal attacks were putting his people in jeopardy each and every day. Yeah, I think she's right. And when she says his people, I don't think she means his staff. I mean, she means the people of Chicago, Illinois at large. Really, it's a shame to see what's happening. The whole sanctuary city-state thing is, not only is it a farce, but it's a dangerous farce. Anyway, we're going to go quickly to the White House for the signing of the bill. Let's go. No? We're not?
People don't know what they're doing. For the past 43 days, Democrats in Congress shut down the government of the United States in an attempt to extort American taxpayers for hundreds of billions of dollars for illegal aliens and people that came into our country illegally, from gangs, from prisons, from mental institutions. They wanted to pay them $1.5 trillion, which would have really hurt our healthcare businesses and our recipients at levels never seen before. Today, we're sending a clear message that we will never give in to extortion, because that's what it was. They tried to extort. The Democrats tried to extort our country. In just a moment, I'll sign a bill exactly like we asked Democrats to send us all along, many days ago. This cost the country $1.5 trillion, this little excursion that they took us on. Republicans never wanted a shutdown and voted 15 times for a clean continuation of funding. There's never been a time when one or the other party ever didn't sign a continuation. It's just a continuation, not a big deal. It's a continuation, and we'll talk.
We're back, right? Is that right, Mr. Good? Okay. And we're going to get some reaction from Congressman Keith Self, who's joining us, who voted momentarily a little while ago for this bill. But before we do that, I'm going to remind you about something that has been pressing. And it's the fact that it's already November, and it's colder than it usually is. It was 40 degrees yesterday. People are making Thanksgiving plans. And let's be honest, there's a lot of great food and great drinks, good for the soul, but not great for your liver, right? And this time of year, our livers are definitely putting in overtime, many of us. And if you're feeling a little bloated or just sluggish or just a little off, it could be your body telling you that it's time to give your liver a little bit of love. That's where Active Liver from New Nordic comes in. It helps keep things balanced. Active Liver is powered by natural ingredients like milk thistle, globe artichoke extract, and turmeric. All of these things have been shown by studies to help keep your liver in tip-top shape. And don't forget the gummies. They taste amazing. They really do. It's like mango apricot flavor. It's fantastic. I have a whole bottle. And I want you to be able to enjoy the food and festivities as much as I am, and do it all thanks to Active Liver. Now, you can find New Nordic's Active Liver online at Amazon or Vitacost.com or iHerb.com, or you could find it in stores like CVS, Meijer Grocery, or ShopRite. And remember, these statements and products have not been evaluated by the FDA because they're liver gummies. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or condition, but they do taste great. Don't go anywhere. Coming right back with Congressman Keith Self.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. Somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Cost of living, restore public safety, grow our economy, and make America affordable again for all Americans. Again, costs are way down. Energy is way down. Gasoline is at $2.50 a gallon versus $4.70 for the Democrats. And we think we're going to hit pretty close to $2 a gallon. That's like a really massive tax cut. It's the equivalent of that.
That is President Trump, again, giving some remarks on the economy as well as he prepares to sign the bill with people surrounding him in the Oval Office. And I want to bring in our guest, Congressman Keith Self. Congressman Self is no stranger to the program. He served as a judge. He's served as a Special Forces Army Ranger, and he's now in United States Congress. That sounds like the right preparation, by the way, to be a congressman, right? You need to be Special Forces to survive in the D.C. swamp. Congressman Keith Self, welcome back, sir.
Great, Rich. Good to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I'm presuming you and all of your colleagues had to cast this very, very important vote in order to open up the government, the one that the Democrats still maintain was your fault, yet it was the Republicans and eight courageous Democrats that opened it up.
Those are the 8 Democrats in the Senate. This evening, the House voted on it again. We actually had 6 Democrats join us in the House, amazingly enough.
Right. Yeah, I saw that. You had a higher margin than I expected. It was nearly party line, but you had some Democrats. And this, again, it shows that the whole narrative that we'd seen, that this was the Democrats blaming the Republicans, it was their shutdown, it really, in fact, wasn't. They couldn't do anything unless you had some Democrat support, at least in the Senate. You guys in the House likely had a little bit of a better margin. But it amazes me that they continue to try and make this something that it's not.
Oh, my goodness. I sat through the debate this evening just to listen to what they would have to say. After their 8 Democrats in the Senate voted with them, would they just say, okay, we've done our job, we've stood firm? No. It was as brutal an attack on the Republicans as we've heard throughout the shutdown. And absolutely, we did our job something like 53 days ago now. The shutdown has been going on for 43 after the Senate got it. But oh my goodness, they were just beside themselves today on the floor of the House during the debate. But this has always been the Republicans have voted to pay our military. To get the economy going, to stand against the repeal of everything we've done this year. And the Democrats want nothing to do. And frankly, here's a great point, Rich. The Democrats have always voted for a CR, always for a clean CR, every single time. 44 years from Chuck Schumer. Why this time? Because Donald Trump is in office. And I have to tell you, if I can just have another second, Mike Johnson did a wonderful job keeping the Republican conference together through all of this. Every single day he stood up at a press conference, looked the Americans in the eye and said, this is what we're doing it for, this is why. And he was very successful. President Trump gave cover to both Thune and Johnson, and that's why the Democrats really got nothing out of this.
Yeah, you know what? And I think that is a point. That is a point that maybe there is a point that I think is overlooked here, Congressman, which is that what you're talking about, right? The longer that they go on with the shutdown, the more pressure there is from Democrats, right? From your colleagues saying, listen, you need to open it up. This is hurting you as much as it's hurting me, trying to get Democrats to affect Republicans so that the Republicans can cave. But, thankfully that didn't happen. Like you said, Speaker Johnson doing an amazing job holding the Republican caucus together so that they didn't waffle and nobody went astray there. And then all you had to do was, corral some support from the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. The Republicans stayed strong. We didn't crack, but we were on the right side. Right. We wanted to have flat funding. We didn't want a Christmas omnibus bill, which this takes it into January. So, the Christmas omnibus breaking that paradigm is more valuable than most people realize, because the omnibus right before Christmas historically has been everybody's Christmas wish list in spending. And we've broken that for 2 years now. So that is a victory that most people are not talking about.
Yeah, 100% right. Now, Congressman, you guys have been doing an amazing job to, like you said, to keep this together. And Speaker Johnson earlier making mention that this is a problem that the Democrats created. And I think he's right. Do you expect them to do this again when they have a chance at the end of January?
What are they going to use as their leverage? SNAP has been funded for a full year. They got nothing on the subsidies, the ACA temporary subsidies, Obamacare temporary subsidies. Are they going to go again and say that the military is not going to be paid? Are they going to try that tactic again? I wouldn't recommend it to them, but we'll see if they do.
Yeah. I hope that's the case, and I hope that you're right, because this is getting old, this story. Congressman Keith Self, let everybody know how they can keep up to speed with the amazing work that you're doing.
Well, social media, whatever the format is, Rep Keith Self, and my website is keithself.house.gov.
Outstanding. Well, I want to thank you for making the time to join us. I'm sure that you would have been there with your colleagues celebrating this victory, and you took the time out to give us a call and share with the American people. So we're grateful for that. Godspeed to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
You bet. And amigos, more to come straight ahead. More reaction from Capitol Hill on exactly what happened right now. Moments ago in the White House, President Trump signing the bill to reopen the government. The government is back in action. I'm not happy, but I'm saying it. I'm Rich Valdez.
Liberty-loving Latino.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
With my signature, the federal government will now resume normal operations, and my administration and our partners in Congress will continue our work to lower the cost of living, restore public safety, grow our economy, and make America affordable again for all Americans. With my signature.
That is President Trump, again, affixing his signature to the bill that was just passed in Congress. All of the Republican members signing on to vote yes to reopen the government. Like President Trump said, this is the Democrats extorting the American people, holding them hostage with 40 some odd days of abuse to those who were abused, right? Many of us didn't feel a thing, but many did. And I want to get into it with somebody who just voted yes to open the government. Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne from Texas is with us. Congresswoman, welcome back.
Thank you so much. It's great to be on, Rich.
You bet. So a little while ago, you guys cast your votes. I spoke with one of your colleagues, Keith Self, a little while ago, and he said he was sitting there and listening to the to what your colleagues on the other side of the aisle were saying, and he was truly astounded at some of the stuff that was coming out of their mouths. Did you have a similar experience?
Yeah, I wonder if they actually believe it. I mean, literally, I'm looking at this has been like 43 days of the longest and the dumbest government shutdown, I think, in history. And we're finally opening back up. They have seen the damage that they have caused. They have acknowledged it. They're calling this damage leverage. I mean, you've seen 42 million people lose SNAP benefits. You've seen 13,000 air traffic controllers work without pay. 1.3 million active duty military that were under threat not to be paid. And you mentioned it in your opening that, most of the American public hasn't even felt it. The reason that happened was because of the Trump administration doing everything they could to prevent people from actually feeling it direct. But it caused millions, potentially billions of dollars in lost economic value. And I think, the press secretary today, Karen Levitt, said it perfectly. I mean, she was labeling some of these numbers. And for what? This was for nothing. They got nothing out of this. Their initial demands for like the $1.5 trillion of additional spend, they wanted it for illegal immigration health care. They wanted it to extend COVID area spending for Obamacare that we all knew was a disaster. They were sending it to foreign countries for DEI programs. None of that was a part of this resolution. It was absolutely ridiculous, completely avoidable. It did so much so much damage. And I am grateful that you had a small number of Democrats in the Senate that recognized this was harmful. We cannot continue doing it, and that put an end to it. But, listening to my colleagues on the House floor today, I'm just shaking my head. It seems like they would continue the damage for absolutely nothing.
Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne, I appreciate that analysis. And again, I observed politics for my second decade doing this, and I can tell you, I'm also surprised. Right, I've seen a lot. I've never seen a shutdown this long, and to me, it's. There's always been vitriol. There's always been political gamesmanship, but there seems to be like an underlying nastiness and an underlying, or maybe overlying, willingness to just lie in people's face because they don't care about people. And they lie right to their faces. And I'm speaking specifically about Minority Leader Jeffries and how it just seems like, when the left-wing media is calling you out saying, but no, you've done this before. You've signed CRs like this like 10 or 12, 13 times. And
13 times under the Biden administration, you signed the same thing.
It's
exactly.
Wild. It really is crazy to me that they're seemingly very desperate. Is that the right word?
No, I think you're exactly right. They wanted to prove that they got something out of this and they couldn't. And, I think what you did see, though, is this like absolute open civil war. And you're talking about like how nasty they are. I think you're seeing it's like you have the old guard that is like really had voted for these in the past, had been supportive of government officials, of government workers. And now you have this angry, this violent, this Marxist wing that really seems to dominate their party. And I mean, you look at the AOCs and how she's upset. You look at Bernie Sanders and say, "Oh, this is a terrible day in history." And the Zohran Mamdanis that have been elected. These are folks on the radical side of this party, and I think right now they're having an identity crisis. But the radical, violent, nasty voice is the one that is winning out. And that's what we heard on the floor today. And I think Jeffries is going to have a really hard time trying to keep his party together moving forward. I mean, they are trying to find themselves. They're trying to find a message that works. But what we've just seen is they are literally willing to shut down and hold the country hostage for over 43 days for absolutely nothing.
This is exactly why you have a Kennedy in Trump's administration, because there are Democrats that they don't know where else to go.
Tulsi Gabbard, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of them. Yeah, because they recognize the part. This is why Jared Golden from Maine is saying enough is enough. I don't even recognize this Democrat Party anymore. What do we stand for? And there's Democrats that I'm actually friends with, that I get along with, that I can work with, and it's like they are saying to themselves, what are we doing here? What do we stand for anymore? Is it for trans? Is it for illegal immigrants? Is it for criminals? Because that's the only thing that they really seem to be passionate about and willing to go to the floor for. It's all about power. And when you think about what they've done with our open borders, during the Biden administration, it's all about power. And, I as much as I am excited to see what happens in New York, because quite honestly, I think once you elect somebody like that as your mayor, you're going to see their financial institutions that have been there historically are going to say this, forget this. I'm going to go to places like Texas. I'm going to forget Wall Street. We're going to go down to Yale Street. Recognizing the fact that J.P. Morgan now has more, employees in Texas than it does in New York, we stand to benefit. But I also hate to think what happens to a city like New York, our largest city in the country, because they are electing these Marxist folks who absolutely hate capitalism, they hate our Constitution, they hate our country. We shouldn't have to have that kind of experiment to prove that it doesn't work. It's never worked.
Congresswoman BVD, there is a lot of speculation right now that this Marxist wing of the party is holding the rest of them hostage, and we've seen Schumer under threat for years now. Honestly, there's been a lot of speculation lately. The AOC might be the Democrats' candidate for the next presidential election, but something in my gut, and I've got quite a gut on me, is telling me that maybe she decides to challenge Schumer, which was, I think, the original plan, and the presidency thing is just a way to get her name out there. What are your thoughts? Are you hearing anything like that?
Of course. I mean, everybody's hearing that. I mean, why else would Schumer, who just supported a continuing resolution not that many months ago, all of a sudden, fight it for so long? He's absolutely desperate to be able to maintain his power, his control, and he recognizes the fact that you've got this young, candidate who seemingly has come out of nowhere from a bar in New York, who is now the mouthpiece of the Democrat Party. Yes, absolutely he is running scared. But they really are going to have to figure out, is this what we stand for? Yeah, she's got a great social media following. But looking at her policies, listening to what she wants to do, is that in the best interest of the country? I think anybody with any common sense would say absolutely not. But he is going to be terrified of her, and you have seen this accomplished a politician who's been in power for how many decades is now running
forever.
scared
my
because he
life.
has a girl with social media following.
Yeah, it's wild. It really is. Chuck Schumer, when I was a kid, Chuck Schumer used to pass in front of the building I lived in, and he knew my mom by first name. He'd say hello to my dad. He was very much a neighborhood politician, and not that we liked him. I think he was funny back then too, but it was he was out there, and it seems like, and this is, I think, why he's been successful over the years, but as he's been pushed to the left, and I think lacked the courage to stand his ground when it should be right, like Israel and other areas that he used to champion and doesn't anymore, I think people are tired of him, and they're getting sour on him, and they're like, what? We have a growing affection for socialism, right? People are really romanticizing the revolution here, and we've got a little bit of a problem on our hands.
Well, you've got people who have suffered under the Biden administration who are paying, 20% more for groceries, and they're looking at their insurance premiums, skyrocketing. When they're looking at housing, that it's beyond them to be able to buy a house because the cost is so high, mortgage rates are so high. When you look at that, and then you've got somebody who's saying, what, we're going to give you free housing, we're going to give you free food, we're going to give you free benefits, free health care, free schooling. At some point in time, you're like, oh, that sounds good. But what that doesn't take into account is somebody has to pay for it. And it is not sustainable. It has never in our human history been a working model for a government that lasts long. You can only have so many people that take, and before the ones who give figure it out. It is a great message, but it is completely unrealistic. And I think when people get desperate, which they have in New York, because the price of living in New York is outrageous because they are taxed and overregulated the way that they are. You cannot live in New York unless you are absolutely, a multimillionaire or you're on subsidies by the government. And they have killed that city. And so that message resonates when you get to a point where the pain is so hard that you would rather hear somebody, the government is going to take care of you. That's not where we should be. We should be working on the economy, giving people opportunity to get a job, to be successful, to be able to leave generational wealth, to their kids. That should be our focus. They are not learning that in schools, and they're not seeing it in life. And that is a shame, and that's something that we definitely need to work on. Amen to that. Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne from the great state of Texas. Let everybody know how they can follow you on social media. I am available on pretty much every social media you can imagine. Beth Van Duyne, VANDUYNE, on Facebook, on Instagram. Beth at Beth for Texas. Go ahead, look us up, send me an email, and look forward to be able to be on your show again and working this out. I'm so thankful that today, after 43 days, we finally opened the government back up. Yeah, well, welcome back to Washington. I'm glad you're back at work, and Godspeed to you, Congresswoman. Thanks for joining us. God bless you. Take care. Always a pleasure. God bless. Amigos, your thoughts, your calls, your reactions, and so much more. The government is back in action, and President Trump again signing that bill in the Oval Office moments ago. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
I want to say to you that I really appreciate what you're doing for people and their state of mind and their viewpoints on the airwaves every night. I really do appreciate it.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Back, it's Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. And if you miss any of the interviews that we do them live, of course, on the radio. Some stations play them at different times based on the local schedule in your state. But you can always catch them online at richvaldez.com, Valdez with an S, and hit play. Or you can even subscribe to the podcast, Rich Valdez, America at Night, and you could get notified when new episodes come out. You could even leave a 5-star review if you're so inclined. I would always appreciate that. We've received many of those, and I appreciate them. And I wanted to... Just a little background. I wanted, again, I thanked them while they were here, but I wanted to thank them again. You could imagine it's difficult at 10:49 p.m. or whatever time zone you're in to get a United States congressperson on the line the night that, they just finished voting and they're back at work after the shutdown and all that. But thankfully, we've been able to build some good relationships with members of Congress on this program. And they do join us live, and they do join us here in the late night. Because I think they care about you, right? They care about the listeners because you are we the people. And I'm thankful. I'm thankful to Congressman Self, who I met, of all places, believe it or not, in Europe. We met at a conference, the CPAC conference in Budapest, Hungary. Not last year, but maybe the year before that. And he met in person. I'd known him professionally through that, but I was able to meet him in person. He's a mensch, as my Jewish friends in New York say. And Congresswoman BVD, she's been to the studio that we have at World Trade Center in New York City. And let me tell you, she is a gem. She is a burst of energy. She has the knowledge, the passion, the ability to really make a difference that she does on a daily basis. And I'm grateful for when she takes time out of her long day, nearly 11 o'clock at night, both of them, to come on the show and give us the scoop on their recent vote. So thank you to them, and honestly, all of our guests that join us live and late night each night. It's appreciated by me And, of course, I'm sure it's appreciated by you, the listeners. And something that she mentioned in the segment that just went by, she said even the congressman out of Maine was saying, hey, what's going on? You know, what gives? And it reminded me of a story here, not about him, but about Maine and Maine Health. Listen to this. A healthcare system in Maine had to apologize after 500 patients, now these are patients that are alive and well, were told that they were dead through the mail. I'm not making it up. This is a real thing. Maine's biggest healthcare network is apologizing after hundreds of living patients received letters telling them that they were dead. The company, Maine Health, said it was a computer malfunction a few days ago, at the end of October, causing 521 letters to go out through a third-party vendor system. And each of these letters was addressed to a patient and written as if the recipient had died. Listen to this. Maine Health sincerely regrets this error, and we have since resolved the issue and sent apology letters to every affected patient. So just imagine that you get a letter from your doctor and like, oh, what is this, my latest lab reports, you know, for my physical or whatever. And nope, FYI, you're dead. Oh, man, I thought this was so funny that this really happened. But this is how life goes sometimes, right? They employ more than 20,000 people, this company, Maine Health. And they recently updated their digital record and messaging systems, and they're reviewing now the automation tool that they use that produced these letters. Obviously, you know, something didn't work right. And it may not have been the tool. It might have been human error. A lot of times it is, right? One little box was checked, you hit the thing, and boom, you added the living people to the dead people list. So I get how the mistakes happen. Mistakes are easy to make. What's hard is to make sure you don't make the mistake. And I think in life, that's the part many of us forget. Or we get used to making mistakes, and it's just like, oh, hey, listen, everybody makes mistakes. That's the difference between good and great, right? You've got to try harder, work harder, think ahead, discipline yourself, and don't send out letters to people telling them that they're dead. Come on. Anyway, straight ahead, I want to play an audio clip for you, and it's exactly where Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne left off with New Yorkers. Many of them are in a position where they're so beaten down that they feel like they need the government to exist. Well, the other side of that coin is you've got some New Yorkers that want the government to help them subsist. They almost expect it. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. It's Rich Valdez, and I got this clip. It's about a minute and a half, almost 2 minutes long, of this guy complaining and whining and cursing his head off because the government doesn't give him enough money. Listen to a quick clip of this.
What the is the point of living in America, being a student in America, if I can't I woke up today.
He's saying he can't afford anything, and he only has $17 in the bank. This guy's a college student, and he's upset that he has to work while he's in school. I'm going to play that whole clip of audio for you because it's perfectly in line with what Beth Van Duyne was talking about. So keep it locked right here. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back. RichValdez.com. Don't go anywhere.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late night talk program featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Your liberty-loving Latino amigo, happy to be here with you this Wednesday night at 7 minutes past the top of the hour. We're live and national, and America's back in action. The government has been reopened, and I'm happy about that. I'm glad the government's been reopened. That's one of the things that we're tracking tonight. Of course, we've had some reaction from members of Congress and lots of other discussion. But I also want to talk about some of what's going on in other parts of the media, right? Because, yesterday I brought something up that was in the news earlier this week, which was the fake, phony fraudness, if you will, that went on with BBC News. And how two top bosses there, the CEO, the director, the news director, and their UK person, both had to resign because they maliciously created an edit that told a different story than the truth. And the CEO had given some comments saying, "Look, we made mistakes were made." Right? She said, I think she's British. She said, "Mistakes were made. Mistakes were made, but it wasn't malicious. No one acted maliciously." Now, I can tell you that is playing to the goodness inside of people. Right? Now, yes, none of us is good, not a single one. Right? But I understand that. The same reason the Good Samaritan stopped on the side of the road, it's because there is goodness or godliness inside of us, despite our own fleshly desires, right? And I'm not trying to get overly spiritual here, but this is the reason when you see someone that's in need of help, you're like, oh, shoot, let me go over here and help this person. And the flip side to that is when you don't do that, it's not the goodness inside of you. It's your own selfish nature, right? That you say, oh, come on, I'm in a rush. I got no time for that. I can't do that. I can't mess with that right now. And I think she's appealing to the goodness in us, saying, look, yes, mistakes were made, but no one was trying to harm President Trump. Well, then what were you trying to do? If no harm was done, if you weren't trying to hurt this man by creating a cut, by stringing together nearly an hour's worth of clips and putting them into 20 or 30 seconds and making it sound like he said, let's go attack the Capitol. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. I also have my own story about a few things I did today that I thought were interesting I want to share with you. One was somebody that I met on the street, and another thing was this cool adventure I had in New York City. But putting both of those aside, I want to talk about something that Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne said regarding people are romanticizing revolution because they feel that they need the government's help because things just aren't affordable for them anymore. And I agree that there's some truth in that, right? Some truth. I say some, and I'm not making her out to be a liar. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But I'm saying there's always been some degree of hardship, right? Some people, for example, let's say you're just starting out in life and you're like, I want to rent an apartment. And then you say, well, what's the rent? I don't know. It's $2,500 a month for, one bedroom or something like that. And I need the first month's rent and a month's security. Now, if you go through real estate or a place that requires another half month or full month, then you need 3 months to get in, right? So the month's rent, the month's security, and a third month is a reserve that you may get back. Okay, let's say the first is the case, you're talking $5,000. If it's the second scenario that's the case, you're talking $7,500. And I understand how that can be prohibitive to young people. I have some. One lives with me, and the other one is living with roommates in Virginia. And I get it. I get how difficult life can be. I lived my own life. And it was easier when I lived my own life than it is today. But I say all of that to say, she said that, that comment that, too many people, in particular New York, is what we were talking about, and they've kind of fallen victim to this. And I have to say, I agree with that in part. But the other side of that coin is you've got some people that are so entitled, that are so expectant of the government to take care of them because they think that something is owed to them. Now, I've got a clip that I want to play for you, and I might interrupt it along the way, but I want you to hear what he says and be creative. There's a lot of bleeps because he curses a lot. Typically, he's using the F-bomb over and over. But this is a young man that's a college student. At first, I thought it was a young lady, but I think it ends up being a young man. And he's just telling you why he's upset. Listen to this.
What the is the point of living in America, being a student in America, if I can't I woke up today, I have $17 in my bank account. My rent's paid. I'm good.
Can we stop it? He says, what is the point of being a student if I can't effing afford anything? Then he goes on to say that he woke up today and he only has $17 in his effing account. Go ahead.
For a month. Don't know what I'm going to do next month. Wasn't able to work last week, so yeah. And I've been bleeding money since I got financial aid. And now I got $17 in my bank account. And you're like, what do you do, right? Full-time student. Works full-time. Get a better job? Is that the solution? No, it's not the I shouldn't have to fucking work every goddamn day to bleed fucking money. I'm a fucking student who lives in the richest fucking country on earth. My goddamn taxes should be taking care of me, not bombing people in the Middle East. But no, people in America are fucking starving, and our stupid fucking president is building a goddamn ballroom with money he put in his own fucking pockets. He settled a lawsuit with himself with our fucking money, our fucking taxes. I'm not the only one who's going through this shit. If you weren't born rich, you're pretty much even if you were born middle class, you're still kind of because FAFSA can't give you more money. And if your family is struggling, and if you're like me, which you're not the first kid to go to college, you're richest country in the world, my fucking ass. Donald Trump.
All right. Now, I couldn't help but laugh at this because did you see the emotional journey that we just went on? Right? It started with he was lamenting because he can't afford, because he has $17 in the bank. He's upset with that. Instead of saying, hey, thank God I have $17. No. He paid his bills and whatever, and he's got $17. He's upset. Okay, granted, understood. But then he moves on. And it moves on very quickly, and you'll notice the emotion gets more intense, his yelling gets more intense, his anger level gets higher and higher. And he goes from, he shouldn't have to pay this because we should be paying him to go to school because he shouldn't have to work, he shouldn't have to get a better job because people are starving in America, and instead we're sending money overseas. Okay, sounds interesting. Sounds very America first to me. But he quickly moves into a different direction and says that President Trump is settling a lawsuit with himself. What? He settled the lawsuits with the people that lied about him in the media, and instead of saying, hey, look, by the way, I am going to just keep all this money that I was awarded by CBS News or, the others that he's sued. No. He says, I'm going to donate this money, and I'm going to get other people to donate money so that we can build a world-class ballroom, world-class by his standards, right? So he's bringing a little slice of Mar-a-Lago level luxury to the White House, something that's been done in the past. Other presidents have done major construction projects. None of them were builders, by the way, like President Trump. But it's because it's Trump. They don't like him. But on top of that, this is pretty much a freebie, right? The least expensive construction project this White House has ever seen. And this man is now losing his mind over this, that the tax dollars that are not being spent there should have gone to whatever. All of this emotional frenzy he goes on to say F Donald Trump. It was like a work of art in crazy, right? If you could get inside the mind of a crazy person, that was what it looked like. That is what we're seeing on the left. That is what gets people to hear Zoran Mamdani, AOC, and others make the all-out crazy decisions to say, I like Bernie Sanders. Healthcare is a right. Alexandria and I, Zoran and I, Bernie Sanders. This is why these people are popular, because they feed this type of crazy to their constituents, to the people that want to listen. It's always this wedge, divide and conquer Marxism, right? You don't have because so-and-so has. So now he's upset that he doesn't have because Trump's building a free ballroom. He doesn't have because other people were born rich. He doesn't have because he had to pay his bills. He doesn't have because he's a student. He doesn't have because this is the richest country in America, yet he feels like he only has $17. You see how Marxism works? When you're spending other people's money, this idea runs out very quickly. And sadly, that's where we are. And it's what we see with the media as well. So I want to talk about the media and how fake, phony, and fraud they've been with this January 6th edit, with all of the crazy with today's news where they're redacting the name of somebody we already knew, like Virginia Giuffre, trying to make it look like Trump did something nefarious when, in fact, that never happened. And even people in the media are upset about this, saying it's about transparency. I don't know that it's about transparency if we already have the information. But I tell you, I could go on, but I'm out of time right here. And I want to take a pause right here, come right back with our guest. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
The BBC is facing a leadership crisis after its Director General Tim Davie and News Chief Deborah Turness resigned over the editing of a speech by US President Donald Trump. The public broadcaster has faced a storm of criticism for misleading editing of a speech Trump made on January 6, 2021, before a crowd of his supporters stormed the Capitol in Washington. Its Panorama documentary programme spliced together 3 quotes from 2 sections of the 2021 speech, delivered almost an hour apart, into what appeared to be one quote in which Trump urged supporters to march with him and fight like hell, the phrase he used towards the end of his speech, but without referencing the Capitol. Among the parts cut out was a section where Trump said he wanted supporters to demonstrate peacefully. In a letter to staff, Davie said, "There have been some mistakes made, and as Director General, I have to take ultimate responsibility."
I stepped down over the weekend because the buck stops with me. But I'd like to make one thing very clear. BBC News is not institutionally biased. That's why it's the world's most trusted news provider.
Trump welcomed the resignations, commenting on his Truth Social network that the way the speech had been edited was an attempt to step on the scales of a presidential election. He called that a terrible thing for democracy.
That's a report from the Associated Press regarding the resignation of Tim Davie, the Director General, and the CEO, Deborah Turness, in the UK, of course, regarding this crazy splicing that they took 55 minutes of audio and crammed it into like a 20-second clip saying, basically Trump was like on a warpath. Well, you heard the quotes that he put in there, but This was egregious, and I'm surprised they weren't fired. They probably resigned in lieu of being fired. I want to bring in the person who I think is most appropriate to talk about this tonight. He's the president of Accuracy in Media. Adam Guillette, welcome back.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
You bet. So I'm sure by now you've heard these audio clips that, when you put them all together, it sounds like Trump is leading the charge to go into war. Meanwhile, it never actually happened, Adam.
That's right. This is a story that made me want to pull my hair out because as somebody who runs an organization that does hidden camera investigative journalism, anytime we release a video, the bureaucrats, the politicians we capture always accuse us of selective editing. They always say, oh, well, that's out of context, but we never do that. Meanwhile, the BBC, supposedly the most trusted media outlet in the world, is clearly incredibly guilty of the biggest Frankenstein's monster of a selectively edited context clip put together that I've ever seen. And it's one thing when MSNBC, lies about Trump. But the BBC is essentially an agent of the British government. It's funded by the British taxpayers. So we have one of our greatest allies using an agent of their government to smear our president.
That is really well put, and it is wild that this is going on. And I agree with you. You kind of expect that from some of the cable channels. You don't expect it from the BBC. But sadly, we've seen that from the BBC. We've seen things from the AP. We've seen things from a lot of respected legacy brands in media where I guess if I'm putting it generously, they get it wrong. If I'm being honest, they lie. Adam Guillette, what's going on here?
Well, we live in a fragmented media landscape where none of these outlets really are trying to appeal to a broad audience anymore. They're not trying to appeal to the left and the right and the few people that are in the middle. Instead, they all seek out one specific audience and they tell them what they want to hear. And if it's a pro-Trump story, the New York Times readers aren't going to read it. The MSNBC viewers aren't going to watch it. So they just have to tell their audiences what they want to hear, whether or not they know it to be true. But again, the BBC is different. The BBC is taxpayer funded. The BBC isn't supposed to be reliant on lying to their audience for clicks. So for them to do this when they're not desperate for ratings per se suggests that they're not chasing cash. They're an activist outlet pushing an agenda. I think it's far more worrisome.
Yeah, I agree. Really well put. Adam Guillette, I want you to stick with me. I want to come back and, put a finer point on this. And I also want to talk about the latest hit job in the media today, regurgitating old stuff about Epstein, making it look new and saying it's a call for transparency. The left doesn't give up with this Epstein stuff, and they're coming after Trump, even if they don't have anything. Adam Guillette, stick with me. Folks, we're coming right back with Adam Guillette, president of Accuracy in Media, and me, Rich Valdez. Don't go anywhere.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I have your statement about the new Epstein emails that have been released by House Democrats. Separate from why you believe the emails were made public, can you address their substance? Did the president ever spend hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a victim?
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. And what President Trump has always said is that he was from Palm Beach, and so was Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. And this email you refer to with the name of a victim that was unredacted now and has since been reported on in this room, so I will go ahead and say it, Virginia Giuffre. And it was CBS's own reporting, Ouija, that recently wrote that Miss Giuffre maintained, and God rest her soul, that she maintained that there was nothing inappropriate she ever witnessed, that President Trump was always extremely professional and friendly to her, And so I think it's a question worth asking the Democrat Party, and you should all go ask them after this briefing, of why they chose to redact that name of a victim who has already publicly made statements about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and is unfortunately no longer with us.
So that, again, is White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, again, addressing media reports that were widely publicized today. A headline, I think the New York Times had a headline, and forgive me if it wasn't the New York Times, I'll happily retract my statement. But several had headlines around the idea that Trump spent hours with Epstein victim. And clearly this was misleading at the very best and wrong at the very worst, because this is just categorically wrong, right? And she pointed it out. But we have to remember this Virginia Giuffre, we knew who this victim was, and she was already on the record making multiple claims, right? They asked her questions in her deposition about, did President Trump flirt with you? And she said he didn't. That's what's inaccurate. Did you ever see Donald Trump at Jeffrey Epstein's house? Not that I can remember. On his island? No, not that I can remember. In New Mexico? No, not that I can remember. In New York? No, not that I can remember. So this, again, is her sworn testimony in a deposition. Then you have Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer, David Schoen, saying, I was hired to lead Jeffrey Epstein's defense as his criminal lawyer 9 days before he died. He sought my advice for months before that. I can say authoritatively, unequivocally, and definitively that he had no information to hurt President Trump. I specifically asked him. So these are, again, statements that were made, and yet the media knowing this stuff, and again, I use the media collectively, but some of the outlets that reported this stuff because, or I should say at the behest of House Democrats, not leaking, but releasing this info directly to them. So when we talk about accuracy in media, and we're on with the president of accuracy in media, Adam Gillette, I think what we don't see is accuracy in media, at least not with this story, Adam Gillette.
Well, I mean, it used to be that if you wanted to hear far out there conspiracy theories, you had to stay up late and listen to Coast AM. My, how the times have changed, that we can tune into MSNBC or read the Washington Post or CBS News to hear these ridiculous conspiracies. And it speaks again to these outlets telling their audiences what they want to hear, whether or not they know it to be true. Those audiences want to hear that some wild conspiracy is going to bring down Trump, whatever that conspiracy may be. To me, the most egregious thing is the hypocrisy. Because these people who claim to be so concerned, about pedophilia and underage girls and whatnot, are the same people who are pushing rules and laws to allow boys into girls' sports, into girls' locker rooms, into girls' bathrooms. We recently exposed Arlington School District in Virginia, which had an adult male who is using girls' locker room facilities on the weekends in front of 5-year-old girls disrobing, and the prosecutor declined to prosecute against him because he claimed that he identified as a woman. So for these people to claim that they're so suddenly passionate about pedophilia is just hypocrisy that I can't stand.
Yeah, listen, Adam Gillette, I think you hit the nail on the head there. That's 100% right. And sadly, this dead pedophile is like the gift that keeps on giving, right, for the Democrats. And for a second, I don't think that there's anything new here. It's clear that there's nothing new. This, in my opinion, and you tell me your thought on this, strategically speaking, this comes out today because today they lost. They took a big L on the shutdown. They tried to hold the American people hostage. They couldn't hold them hostage any longer. Their own people, the Democrats, joined with Republicans to reopen the government because they needed a handful of Democrats in order to do that. And voila, cue the Epstein. Make a story. We've got to go back to, maligning Trump.
Well, it's not entirely the gift that keeps on giving, because when Epstein was alive, I believe he was consistently giving to left-wing candidates. And now that he's killed himself, that gift, I guess, has dried up for them. So, yeah, the best they can do is to try to make hay of it and distract their base with it after they were defeated in the government shutdown debacle. All they've got is a conspiracy theory to dance in front of people in the hopes that their audience will buy the idea that this is going to bring down Trump. It's wonderful fiction, and it makes sense because these are the people who run Hollywood. So no surprise.
Yeah, you're right. No surprise there. Now, you talked about the case you guys were just working on. Tell us a little bit about some of the other stuff you guys have in the hopper over at Accuracy in Media.
Sure. So we do hidden camera investigative journalism, and we've been releasing a series of investigations. In fact, there's a new one coming out tomorrow from Ohio of K through 12 school districts in red states that are allowing boys to join girls' sports teams, use girls' locker rooms, use girls' facilities. These people in deep red districts coach our investigators on how they can circumvent the law and put girls in danger. And at the same time, we've been investigating universities in red states that have banned diversity, equity, inclusion. And what we see again and again and again in Utah, in Iowa, in North Carolina, is that the law means nothing to the radicals who run higher education, just as it means nothing to the radicals who run K through 12 education.
So now, if people want to get, a bird's eye view of some of your hidden camera undercover sting videos at Accuracy in Media, where do they go? How do they see them?
Sure. Our website is aim.org, AIM.org. We're active on every social media platform. And what we've started doing after we capture them undercover, I go back and then confront them with a cameraman, and good times are had by all.
Yeah. Now, Adam Guillette, I remember you being on the board of Project Veritas around the time I was there back in 2014. And I know none of this stuff happens free. Right? These videos don't magically produce themselves. If people want to help your organization, how do they do it?
You're very kind. We're a nonpartisan, nonprofit, charitable organization. Donations are tax deductible, and you can donate online at AIM.org. Again, AIM.org. We are getting incredibly active in both K-12 education, higher education, DEI, in local governments. Essentially, we use our hidden camera investigative journalism to put frowns on the faces of very bad people.
Outstanding work. Folks, check them out. Follow them. Do what you got to do. If you're able to reach that very long arm of yours into your very deep pocket, go and send them a few bucks. I think you'll be very, very pleased with the results. Adam Guillette, Godspeed to you, my man, president of Accuracy in Media. I appreciate it, brother.
Always an honor to be on. Thank you so much.
You bet. Amigos, we continue with your thoughts, your calls, your reactions, and so much more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez keeping you company live and national, 833-4-VALDEZ. And we're going to get to your calls momentarily. Let's see. Tony, Montreal, Canada, calling us from Vermont, WVMT. Tony, go right ahead.
What a day. What a day. You know, the deal maker wins again. And, you know, the old country tune, you have to know when to fold them, or you play on and you hold them. And guess what? Trump never folded. Omar Fatah, the helmet in Minneapolis, he's going to fold. Karen Rockbass out of L.A., I lost my tongue in Ghana, she's going to fold. Bruce Monopoly, I let everybody out of jail. Harrell in Seattle, he's going to fold. Brandon Johnson, there's no violence and we don't need Trump, he's going to fold. Pritzker's going to fold. New Scum, the scum of California, will fold. You've got Bruno in Quebec City who will fold. That's Bruno Marchand. And you have the Mandami, of course, the greatest of the duplicates of the Montreal mayor Greenhouse green scam plant. She folded. She quit. She wouldn't even go to election because she knows this wave of conservatism is coming to North America. It's in Europe. It's going to be in England, Ireland. It's going to be in Italy. Enough with the wokeism, the Islamofascism, the infidels, calling Christians infidels around the world. Trump is the man. Like you have to say, who is the only leader in the world that is standing up for Christianity? He's willing to put his
I'll tell you what, Tony, it's not the Pope.
It's not the Pope. And you know what? It's not Carney. It's not Trudeau, who indulge in what's called their own self-aggrandizement, becoming multi-millionaires on the population of Canada and selling a bill of ill health to our country. Listen, a lot of people say, oh, Tony, you're in Montreal, you're for Trump. No, I'm for Trump because Trump is for his country. And every country in the world should put their country first. We are one of the richest countries in the world. Okay, compared to Saudi Arabia, they have 38 million. Canada has 40 million. They have 251 billion in debt. We have 2.1 trillion in debt. We have every resource in the world, minerals that can make our country the greatest and the richest country, where we can have zero tax. We could tariff everybody like Trump. Instead, we attack Trump, and we don't use his style of government, which is conservatism, which is love of country, love of flag, love of God, love of neighbor. Okay, it's enough, man. All these left-wing lunatics. Mandami, I'm talking to you. Your ilk in Montreal got turfed. They got smashed. You're going to get smashed. You're going to ruin the great city of New York that I visited multiple times, man. And you know, someday, I hope I can make a difference in our countries. And when you say Tony's from Montreal,
Tony, let me tell you something. I think you make a difference in Canada every day just getting on this show, right? I think prior to you calling into the program, and it's why I bring you on as much as I do, I think there were a lot of Americans that were like, we can't stand those lefty Canadians, right? But talking to people like you, it's like, hey, you know what? There are some really solid patriots, Canadian patriots, that support America, that realize, you know, there's nowhere to go, right? If America's lost, we're all screwed, brother. There's nowhere else if we can't make it happen in America, where does a guy like me go for liberty and freedom? We don't. There's nowhere we go. So I think you're on point there, brother. You are doing your thing. I love your passion. I can't wait to listen to your show because I think there's one in the making. And if not, there should be. Tony, thank you, brother, for the call. I appreciate it. Godspeed to you, my man. And amigos, Tony mentioned a few things. He talked about New York and Mamdani. And there's a story about New York that I want to get to in a moment because, man, it really things just don't stop happening in this neck of the woods. And, of course, your thoughts and calls are always welcome. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez. And 8334-VALDEZ is our phone number. Let's go to Pat, Easton, Texas, KSEV. That is Chris Salcedo country. Pat, go right ahead.
It is. Thank you. And I had Peace Corps training in Puerto Rico, and all the kids, I was in McDonald's, and they had me sign my autograph. That's been 1969.
Wow.
After high school. But the kids were so cute. Then when I went to Guatemala and Latin America, I sent them postcards to their classroom.
You got your own fan club in Puerto Rico. Lucky you.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to say the reason I called, I'm just overwhelmed because I had a father. It was World War II. He didn't come back in very good condition. My 4'10" mother tried to take care of him. Neither one of it made it. So my grandmother, that was their only daughter, took care of us. They had to quit school when they were 12 years old during the Depression to help their family. First, get to a bus by walking, and then get a bus into town, and then into the city. They didn't have child labor laws then. 12 hours for 11 cents an hour, but they had to pay for their bus fare, their food, their clothing, and have something to contribute to their family. and they never complained. I never heard them complain. My grandfather, with a 6th grade education, could take a vehicle apart, any engine. We never had to deal with anybody in the house. So when I ended up having to do that, that was difficult with contractors because he did everything. And my grandmother, same thing. She knew everything and helped people. But it just astonishes me that people expect something for nothing and expect the private sector, their person that goes to work next door to them or whomever, to take care of them. And
right.
This food thing, what did people do before we had food stamps, welfare, AFDC?
I'll tell you what. You know what they did? What they did was they relied on the church, Pat. Right? People used to go to churches when soup kitchens. People before the state took over and started taking children and creating these departments of children and families. There were orphanages run by churches and faith organizations. And in my opinion, back when America functioned in a better way, people were more moral. People did the right thing. They contributed to their churches. There were churches everywhere. It was the social hub. Now the social hub is in your pocket. It's Instagram or Facebook or some other, Twitter or whatever it is. And, I guess I sound like an old man talking like that. But honestly, I feel like, as much as the technology benefits us in ways, it also is a detriment. And because we've gotten so far away from actual community that was held together by the glue of a local house of worship, I feel so many things have gone awry. But I love your story. Your father's service, we thank him for it. Yesterday was Veterans Day, and I always try to be grateful for those that have come before us and really, fought the good fight that we just, quite frankly, didn't have to fight because they fought it for us. And the stories that you just shared really really deep, right? Really, they're really character forming stories about how people grew up in generations even before mine. And I've got nothing but appreciation there. So I want to thank you for calling in, Pat. You're a very just a genuine person for sharing all of that, and I really appreciate it. Shout out to Pat in Easton, Texas, KSEV, Salcedo Country. Shout out to Dan Patrick and everybody on KSEV. And let's see, we get to continue here. Let's go to Derek. Derek is in Yucca Valley, California, KNWZ. Go right ahead, sir.
Oh, hey, sorry. Last night I tried to call you, and I had a problem with my audio because I could heard you perfectly when I first.
Well, what's on your mind?
I just got through to hear you. I was gonna say I don't understand how anyone can survive in New York, how expensive it is. The fact they're demanding a $30 an hour is the least surprising part. The fact they haven't moved out at all.
Oh, you're right, 100% right. What happens here is that people are not living in New York because it's cheap. Right? People live in New York because of the allure that New York brings. And it's always been expensive because it's New York. And I can tell you, I live across the river on the Jersey side of the Hudson. And it's expensive in Jersey. Why? Because it's close to New York. So New York was once at least a place where people could make a lot of money. And that's why people could live in the big city, make big money. And I saw some friends that escaped to Florida a couple of years ago. And they were like, man, thank God we were able to get jobs where we're making New York money, but we're living in Florida. And I was happy to hear that, but that's not the case for everybody. So people are starting to figure it out that they just can't afford to stay. So you'll see more people making that exodus. Derek, thanks for the call. Shout out to Joe in Salem on KSAR. Amigos, hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. And by the way, you get a chance, check me out. I'll be on the New York Post tomorrow. Don't go anywhere. Actually, bye-bye.